Hey guys, what's up? MadSeason here, back with another video for you. I'm back to finally finish off the Scepter of the Shifting Sands questline. It took a little longer than I expected, but we're gonna do it. If you remember, our current quest is to rebuild an ancient scepter to open the gates of Ankiraj. The entire server is gathering resources, and a special few people are going through this super long quest chain. We have the green, red, and bronze scepter shards, and we're in the middle of the blue shard chain. The quest we left off with was Draconic for Dummies Volume 2. The book was split up into several chapters and spread throughout the world, and we have to do a little scavenger hunt here to track them down. It's 8 chapters total, and 4 of them you can either get solo or in a party of 5. And the remaining 4 needed some raiding. All in all, this part was pretty time consuming. It required a lot of patience, a lot of traveling, and a lot of dedication. And remember, this was before quest markers were added, so you were in the dark for a lot of these. You were given a hint though. Talking to Narain, he says that you could find Weevil on the Alkaz Island in the Dustwallow Marsh Zone. This island was located off the northeast coast and was teeming with elite enemies, and Weevil himself was a raid boss, so once again, you had to bring your guild with you. He mind-controlled people and did some pretty heavy damage, so he wasn't a chump. Killing him allowed one person to loot the first chapter, and also his diary, which was crucial because it held the location of the remaining 7 chapters. Reading it reveals his hatred for Narain and his trip around the world. He dropped one chapter off in Nefarian's lab, another down Anixia's chimney. Oh man, this is gonna be rough. But let's go through it one by one. The second chapter could be found in the Tainted Scar in the Blasted Land Zone, which is filled with elite demons. This is where the old raid boss, Kazakh, patrols. Luckily, you don't need to kill him though, just the demons in the area with a small party. All of these non-raid chapters had an extremely low drop rate, so you had to have some pretty good friends to stick with you for the long haul. As for chapter 3, you can get this from elite demons in the Darkwhisper Gorge hub all the way back in Winterspring. Chapter 4 was located on a table in the Stormwind Keep, which was very easy for Alliance players, and not so much for Horde. But before the Alliance had a chance to celebrate, Chapter 7 was located on a table in the Undercity, so each faction had it rough as these chapters were located in the bowels of each city, and remember, no flying, so you were better off getting these chapters in the wee hours of the morning before people log on. The final 3 required some raiding. Following the diary, Chapter 6 was looted from Anixia in Anixia's lair, Chapter 8 from Ragnaros in the Molten Core, and Chapter 7 was located on a table after the Broodlord Lashlair boss in the Blackwing lair. For Chapter 8, people speculated that the run was timed and the chapter would burn if you didn't clear the raid fast enough. I don't think this was ever confirmed though, at least to my knowledge. And remember, only 1 drop per kill. So, it took a bit of globetrotting to say the least. But you got all 8 chapters, combined them into a book, and returned to Narain. As a reward, you got another purple. A cloth turban this time, aimed for casters, and it also had a reduction in silence and interrupt effects, which was pretty interesting. But with that, you've tracked down all 3 items, and Narain thumbs through Azragos' ledger. The good news is that Narain can indeed make the Arcanite buoy needed to lure the minnow, but the bad news is that it's insanely expensive to make, requiring 20 Arcanite bars, and 10 each of blue sapphires, Azerothian diamonds, and Elementium ingots. This was extremely expensive back in the day. Generally, your guild did supply you with the Elementium ingots. These dropped off of the trash mobs in the Blackwing Lair raid, and were also used in the creation of the Thunder Fury legendary. So at this point, Your guild should have an ample supply of them if you've had Blackwing Lair on farm for a while. And if you are lucky, your guild would also help you with the other stuff. Remember, there was sort of a competition and a race going on here, so teamwork was needed if your guild wanted to say that they held a scepter bearer. The bars, the sapphires, and the diamonds you got all from mining high-level ore veins. The bars specifically were a little slower to get because you needed arcane crystals from thorium veins, and also a thorium bar, and you brought those to an alchemist to transmute them to an arcanite bar once every 20 hours. So, you brought all of this stuff back to Narain, and as a reward, he gives you a buoy, and he also sends you 100 gold in the mail, which probably covers your repair costs from all the crap that you had to go through at this point. But whatever, we have the buoy, so it's time to finally get that last shard. The minnow, as it turns out, is located off the eastern shore of Ashara in the Bay of Storms. So, you take a raid with you, play the Jaws theme in the background, and use the buoy. Doing so will summon the aquatic outdoor raid boss, Maz. He's a bit more sharky than he is minnowy, and he hits rather hard. He also enrages, so having a hunter dispel that with Tranquilizing Shot was vital. But you took him down, and you got the blue Scepter shard. You also got a pretty unique reward this time. A frost resist ring that gives you the ability to breathe underwater, or if you are a mage, a frost damage fire resist chest. Most people went with the ring, I imagine, since this was pretty handy to have. Not a ton of underwater breathing items back in vanilla, if I recall correctly. And finally, Anachronos bestows upon you the Scepter of the Shifting Sands. This is the heart and soul of not only you, but your guild and the server. Raid bosses, both indoors and outdoors, reputation farming, insane grinding, gold investment, time investment, head collecting, dragon summoning, time trials, book collecting, resource gathering. It all culminated into this one single item. This is where the quest may have temporarily ended for you, depending on the progress of that war effort. Remember, during all of this, the Horde and Alliance were amassing trade goods to prepare for an assault on the gates of Ahn'Qiraj. So if you were speedy, you might have to wait a bit while everyone was still gathering stuff, which was fine because I'm pretty sure you needed a break at this point. Once all the supplies were gathered, you had to wait just an additional 5 more days to transport them to Silithus, and after that, you, along with all of the other scepter bearers, were offered a quest called Bang a Gong. Just as Anachronos said, using the scepter on the gong opened up the gates of Ahn'Qiraj once more, and its residents came pouring out into Silithus. At this point, the entire server got an emote saying that Name, the champion of the Bronze Dragonflight, has rung the Scarab Gong. The ancient gates of Ahn'Qiraj open, revealing the horrors of a forgotten war. This was an event that the entire server was present for. Elite Anubisath, Colossus, and the minions of the old god Cthulhu would invade the zone of Silithus. Dozens of guilds, both Horde and Alliance, were there to drive them back, and it was insane. The servers definitely weren't ready for it at all, and they crashed over and over again. The bosses would drop some loot, so it was a mad scramble to kill as many as you could. And the event also spilled out into other zones. Crystal formations would spawn all over the world in Tanarus, Feralis, the Barrens, and so on, and they were also surrounded by bosses which dropped some loot. And this would go on for 10 hours after the first person banged the gong. It was one of the biggest events in the game's history, and it's recreated once a year via the Call of the Scarab mini-event. From here, you could do both the 20-man ruins and the 40-man temple of Ahn'Qiraj. And for the special few scepter bearers, as a special bonus, if you banged the gong during the first 10 hours of the event, you're awarded with a special title called the Scarab Lord and the legendary Black Kiraji Battle Tank mount. This is the only legendary mount in the game, not counting GM items. It had a very unique model at the time. It was the only bug mount usable outside of the raid, and it also had a special quirk that if you started summoning it and you entered combat mid-summon, you wouldn't be interrupted. This would later be patched out though. It's very rare to see the mount and the title these days since it was such a time-limited thing. But after that 10-hour war, you're given another quest called the Treasure of the Timeless One, where you get a choice of one of 4 weapons. The Fang of Corielstraz, which was a caster dagger, Shadowsong's Sorrow, a melee dagger, the Rune Sword of the Red, which was a caster sword, and Ravencrest Legacy, which is a melee sword. Epic rewards for an epic quest chain. So, that's it. That's the Scepter of the Shifting Sands quest chain in its entirety. I told you it was a doozy. As I said, no longer available since the Cataclysm expansion. Thanks, Deathwing. But if you completed it before its removal, you got a Feat of Strength, some transmogs, and a cool memory. Something I wanted to mention here, and I'm glad I didn't finish this in part 2 because I wouldn't have had the chance to talk about this, is that there's been some feedback about the chain. Some comments I've been seeing a bit is that this chain is quite ridiculous, and a lot of you out there see this as a big chore and are glad that they don't do stuff like this anymore. That's fine. Everyone has their preference, but I just wanted to say that long quest chains like this were pretty commonplace in vanilla and even the Burning Crusade. Having these super long and involved quests that made you travel to every corner of the world was just part of the game and that hardcore experience. And in defense of it, I will say that it is a luxury quest if you think about it. I mean, this wasn't required by any means. Even the gear you got for it was very niche and only useful for certain resist fights. At the end of the day, just one person needed to go through it to unlock the gates, so I think they could get away with having a super long chain like this. Now, I didn't finish it back then because it was a little too hardcore for me, but personally, I loved that there were big time investments like this. The option to embark on this adventure, either solo or in a small party with friends, or even a giant raid with your guild. To experience a bit of story, and to be part of this huge event for your server. To me, stuff like this defines the term role-playing game, and personally, I can't wait to get my second shot at it with the classic servers. But, regardless of all of that, the only thing I care about is that you enjoyed this short series showing off the chain. I'll be back with the Questlog series in the future for sure, with other cool or interesting chains like this, so I'll see you then if you decide to join me. Peace.
Farewell for now, mortals. We hope you enjoyed today's video. See you again soon.